brothers. Welcome back to the Northeast District Alumni Speaker Series. Um, my name is Jordan Barnes. Again, I am from the Iota Xi chapter at Norfolk State University, and I'm serving as the Northeast District Historian / Alumni Liaison. So for today, we have a special guest on our second episode of the series. Our special guest is Dr. Nicholas Bratcher, um, very good friend of mine. I'm so glad that he decided to be a part of this initiative that I thought of and really wanted to implement and really take it to the next level. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, I'm happy to be here in the series of the Northeast District Alumni Association. My name is Dr. Nicholas Bratcher, and I am the 2017-2019 National Vice President for Programs and a former member of the National Alumni Association Board of Directors. I'm a life member from the Zeta Eta chapter of Kappa Psi at South Carolina State University, and just happy to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So for today's episode, it focuses on one question, which is, why is music a universal language? So this speaks to one of the pillars of our fraternity, which is musicianship. And I wanted to dive into a little deeper of an understanding of why music is a universal language. And I thought, what better person to talk to than a band director? So let's dive on right into the discussion. So,
Okay.
Dr. Bratcher, my first question for you is, what is music to you?
Music to me, at its core, is a form of expression, specifically artistic expression. So when we look at music, we are able to convey, feelings, emotions. We're able to tell stories. We're able to pass down an interpretation of history from generation to generation. Music has been used in everything from rituals to work songs to ceremonies since pretty much the start of time and since man came out of the quote primordial ooze, so to speak. So it's been used for those purposes, and it's continued to be used for that. We use it at weddings, we use it at funerals, we use it at all kinds of different events. We use it to commemorate sporting events. At the start of every sporting event, we play the national anthem. At the start of we use it in religious services. So it's a form of artistic expression and a way that our stories can be passed from generation to generation within whatever culture you identify with.
And I love that answer, and I love how you said that it speaks to someone's story or someone's form of expression. I know one thing that when I really understood and it really clicked for me was when one of my favorite artists, Kendrick Lamar, he had a song entitled "All Right," and that's one of my favorite songs, and it speaks about how, despite someone's circumstances, we'll be all right. And I felt like um, that was a form of expression. That was a form of saying that no matter how down in the dumps you may get, or no matter what your obstacles are, that we'll be all right. So I felt like that was a song that made me realize, like, hey, this is actually a story that's being told. This is an expression that he's telling the world, that we as people will be okay no matter our circumstances. So I like how you actually said that. Which brings me to my next question, which is, do you believe that music can be something different for everyone?
Absolutely. Music, first of all, we all have our own particular taste in music. Forgive me right now for the if you hear any like noises in the background. I'm literally pulled over on the side of like 605. So, cars are zipping past and things like that. So sorry about that. But music is an expression of, you know, everyone's different tastes. So it can be different for some people. For some people with um, um, cerebral conditions or brain damage, music has been used with patients with autism, with other types of brain damage. So for them, it can be a form of awakening. For them, for mental activity to take place, music can be used as a therapeutic thing. Music can be used as a way of meditation or as an entry point into meditation. It can be used, like I said earlier, for ceremonies, for different rituals and rites. Um, so music is essentially different for everybody. I listen to music through my AirPods going into work. I have a playlist, and then like I have a playlist for work. I have a when I'm trying to just like sitting at my office computer and getting stuff done. It just kind of helps me zen out and mellow out. Other people may have music for using for studying. Other people may have it for like a gym playlist or for like a travel playlist, meditation, whatever the case may be. But music is different, I think, for everybody. Essentially, it is a form of expression and communication, but essentially everybody has their own different tastes. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And I like how, again, how you say that you had different playlists for different times or um, different playlists to get you through the day. And I noticed that I myself, I have different playlists based on my mood. So one day when I'm feeling sad, I may play. For me personally, I play rock music. That's something that gets me to get my frustrations out. Or if I'm feeling happy, I might play some gospel because that's me showing my appreciation for my happiness. Or if I'm feeling young and energetic, I might have a kids playlist. Like, and when I say kids playlist, I mean of like some of my favorite childhood songs, like Hakuna Matata. Like, that's something that gets me into my quote unquote kid stage. Like it's all based on my feelings, and yeah, like those are my playlists, and I think that that's something that everyone has.
Yeah, you guys touched on something that is so important to me because when I'm at work, when I work in the church, I play Broadway, a lot of Broadway. And it depends on my mood, it depends on my feelings, it depends on everything. And I think that Nick, you really hit on like a crucial part about music. It's not like, yes, it's universal, but it also depends on your mood. And thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for that, even though I'm not on video, but
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. So, but yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody. I mean, it is a universal language, and of course, through our teachings, we preach that until the cows come home. But it is different for everybody, in a sense, to how they respond and how they utilize music as a functionality throughout their day-to-day lives.
And I definitely agree. So, my next question is, even though it could be something different for everybody, how can it be universal? Like, is it something that's when it's all said and done, it's really goes back to the fundamental musical expression, or is it something that all makes us like have a feeling, or does music make us have emotion? Like, how does music music can be universal, but different at the same time for everyone.
You cut in and out a little bit there, but I thought you asked how can music be universal for everyone despite, the differences that we use it for. Okay, so as far as having our differences, music is overall a universal way of communication or a language. And once again, we go back to preaching that music is a universal language, but I mean, it truly is. So we have, for example, if you are, we live in America and we have our own, we have our artists here that do their songs. We have like Beyonce and we have Gaga and we have Kendrick Lamar and we have, love him or hate him, Kanye West. We have all those people. And then, we think that, oh, well, our music over here is different. But if you go over to London or if you go over to Germany or if you go over to Sydney, Australia, and you play Beyonce or Lady Gaga, they understand that. They are able to relate to that. Or if you go over to France and you play, they will play a lot of French artists. And of course they sing in the native language, which of course is French. But then we have Americans over here who follow them. An example I like to use is an artist called Stromae, who was popular a couple of years back in America. He had quite a cult following. But, we listened to it in France, and then when we listen to it in America, it's still the same thing. So we're able to identify with that type of music. And going even further back, we have classical composers like Tchaikovsky and Beethoven and Mozart and Handel and Haydn. Regardless of which orchestras play them, you can have a German Philharmonic Orchestra, you can have like the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, you can have a Japanese symphony orchestra, you can have the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the LA Philharmonic, like right here, literally 2 exits up the road from me. Regardless of how you play the music is going to touch anybody who is a fan of that music, regardless of what language that they speak, regardless of what like human communicative language that they speak. So, I'm a native English speaker. Someone who's a native Spanish speaker could still identify with, a Beethoven or a Mozart work or a Shostakovich work. Someone who is a native Japanese speaker may not be able to understand what I'm talking to them about, but playing, the Firebird Suite by Stravinsky may, enlighten them and say, oh, wow, in their language, this is very nice. I'm a great admirer of Stravinsky's work. Someone else who does not speak my language could also be the same way. So in that way, music does communicate, and it is a universal language because music, like human language, it has phrases, it has nuances. For example, Jordan, if I say, the words "you good," then depending on which nuances that I say them in, they have different meanings. For example, if I say, "you good," or "you good," or "you good," they have different nuances for that. Same way with music. They have different inflections, they have different nuances, they have phrases, they have shapes, there's syntax, there's beginnings, middles, and endings, there's punctuations. So it's similar to a language, but the difference is that, as opposed to Western language, where we have like alphabet as our symbols, music has pitches, notes as symbols. And so those symbols are, I think, universally understood because they're associated with sounds. Whereas if we look at the letter A in Western English, in Spanish, the letter A is pronounced ah. So, unless you are a native Spanish speaker, or unless you have some knowledge of the Spanish language, then you're not going to know that. But in English, a quarter note in 4/4 time gets 1 beat. In Spanish, a quarter note in 4/4 time gets 1 beat. It's the same thing, regardless of where you are in the world, regardless of where you are anywhere else. That's just, Western music notation. So in that sense, then yes, it is a language that can be translated across all continents, all countries, and people just understand it. So in that sense, it is universal.
Wow, like you really broke it down to the T. uh, and that is something that I never even thought to think that deep about. And you put it in the most perfect way. Wow, that's masterclass material. um, wow, that really blew me away. But so in in understanding that music is universal for everyone, as a fraternity, do you think or do you believe that it is important for brothers to actually focus on musicianship? And if so, how do you suggest that they fit it into their chapter operations?
Well, to answer your first question, absolutely. I feel like it's necessary for focus to focus on musicianship. A lot of times, with everything new that's in place, we have a new membership ed curriculum. It's not that new, but it's still fairly new. And then we have the Road to Wisdom. We have the new leadership development curriculum that's out. There's so many new things that are going on, and with running a chapter, and being, I've been in the situation of being an active member and then being a chapter sponsor and a director of bands. So I mean, a lot of times our brothers can get really caught up with, membership intake and leadership projects, and service projects, and getting chapter reports in on time and things like that. To where it's very easy to just kind of gloss over musicianship. It's like, okay, we can get that done. So it's not. So I understand the plight, but in that sense, brothers really need to focus on musicianship, because not only is it one of our pillars, but it's also, first of all, we are a band fraternity. We were founded by musicians. So if we're not, musical in ourselves or in our own right, if we're not striving to promote or incorporate musicianship into everything that we do, then, we're kind of missing one of our key factors in what makes us the organization that we are and that we have been for nearly 100 years now. And it's very, very simple. I know that we are a different fraternity than we were in 1919. We have students with different majors, different interests, that may or may not be the best musicians in their band program, but they may offer something else. Um, we also have students who do color guard, so their musicianship may not necessarily come from being able to read pitches, but being able to count and read rhythms, so that way they can synchronize their choreography with whatever music that the band is playing. So we need to find ways to incorporate those brothers into the organization as well. So I guess to further answer that question, yes, by incorporating musicianship, it could be as simple as, rehearsing the fraternity hymn or the fraternity song, at some point during your meeting, like blocking off like a musicianship section of the meeting to rehearse those two things. Or it can be, if you have music majors, if you have a chapter with a lot of music majors, every semester or every quarter, if you're on the West Coast like myself, um, that you have towards the end of, there are juries. And if you're not a music major, juries are basically like the dreaded final exam of all music majors, where they have to go in front of like 2 or 3 people on a committee, sometimes 4 or 5, depending on their instrument, and they have to perform repertoire that they've been working on throughout the entire semester, to get passed off. And the results of that jury could make or break whether or not they pass their applied lesson, pass a barrier at a academic standing point to get them further along into the degree program, or whether they may have to change majors. And so that can be a very nerve-wracking point. So, I mean, as a chapter, if you want to offer, say, like a mock jury to where you and the brothers sit in and let these people like perform, maybe like an excerpt or two from what they would perform in juries, then that would help kind of maybe get the nerves out, because then their first time wouldn't be in front of their professors. Another thing is, if you want to just promote musicianship across your campus and advocacy, then that's another huge point, because another really good purpose of our fraternity is that we are there first and foremost to serve the band program. So we want to make sure that not only do the people in our college band programs know who Kappa Psi is, but we want to know that people across campus know who Kappa Psi is. And by supporting Kappa Psi, vicariously, you're supporting the college band program and you're promoting awareness for your college band program through that regard. So musicianship doesn't necessarily mean, oh, well, I can play, this technical excerpt the best in my section or in my band program. Musicianship is necessarily you are striving to be the best version of yourself musically that you can possibly be in whatever lane that you happen to be in at the time. So if you are a music major, you are striving to be the best version of a music major self for you. If you are a chemical engineering major who just happens to be on the color guard and band, you are striving to be the best color guard version of you with the best rhythmic counts, no drops, everything on point, and you're striving to promote that same technical excellence and accuracy in the people that come after you, and the people who you are leading. Because if you're wearing these letters, regardless of if you have a formal title or not, you are still a leader within your band program, and people are still looking towards you. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. That makes absolute sense. And you hit everything again on the head. That was very informative. I know I would take some of that stuff with me at my chapter. Um, I know one experience that I can relate to is the juries. Um, and I'm not even a music major, but for that semester, I had applied lessons and we've been working on the same musical repertoire throughout the semester. And for the first time ever, I had to perform in front of that committee. And yes, it was nerve wracking, and I didn't know if I did good or bad. I was just shook. And but again, I did that to actually, like you said, to improve myself musically and become the best musician that I could be. So that was one of the biggest reasons that I did take applied lessons. Um, so thank you for all that knowledge. That was amazing. That was amazing. And my last question for you, and I know you touched on this a bit, but um, is there anything based on your previous experience and knowledge, is there anything that is offered by national headquarters that can actually help brothers with musicianship?
Um, as far as helping them with musicianship, I don't think there's anything currently, I could be wrong, I don't think there's anything currently offered by national headquarters to actually assist in that regards. I know there are several things that are offered by national headquarters to award brothers for their work in those endeavors. So we have several musicianship awards that national headquarters gives out. There's recognition if your brothers are, talented enough to become in the National Intercollegiate Band programs at National Convention. There's a W. Francis Macbeth Student Musicianship Award for brothers who are go above and beyond, the standard music major, and those are voted on by the National Council. But as far as like initiatives to help improve musicianship in general, I don't think national headquarters currently offers anything. I could be wrong, but I want to say not as of yet. I'll say not yet because maybe somebody's working on that at this point. And then we can go from there. But other than that, I don't think there's anything like to actually aid in the improvement of musicianship.
So just speaking as a bystander, is there something that you would recommend? Like an idea you have? Again, we're trying to work with the NED. So is there an idea that you have that we can with?
Yeah, sure. So the NED is comprised of, let me see, Virginia on up, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so the thing about that is that you guys have a lot of band directors in your district who may not have chapters of Kappa Kappa Psi, but who are fierce educators and strong teachers who could possibly recommend and maybe even help you begin some initiatives to help improve musicianship among your brothers. For example, I know that the University of Maryland Eastern Shore just got Dr. Andrea Brown, who used to be at the University of Michigan, and she is a fabulous conductor, a fierce educator, and just an overall good person in general. But I think the University of Maryland Eastern Shore currently does not have a chapter of Kappa Kappa Psi.
Right.
But as a band director, you may want to reach out to her and just maybe ask, what are some ways that we can help incorporate better musicianship into our chapters? Because at some point you may have a brother from an undergraduate chapter where Kappa Kappa Psi is present who wants to attend University of Maryland Eastern Shore for a graduate degree and will work with Dr. Brown in that regards. So then not only are you getting, input from college band directors and you're making them more of an influence in the organization as they should be, then you're also establishing networking opportunities for our students to pursue music at a higher level once they get out of the undergraduate level. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No.
And as
Yes.
and as a band fraternity, we want our students' advancement and matriculation and well-being should be one of our top priorities. So we want to make sure that is something that is available for them. And we want to build those networking opportunities. And yeah, they may not have a chapter of Kappa Kappa Psi. They may have a chapter of Tau Beta Sigma. They may not have either. But, there are band directors at these institutions that can really, 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 really help push towards what you would like to have. I know I think Hampton University just got a new director of bands a few years ago who used to be at North Carolina A&T. So that would be I think Dr. Thomas Jones. That would be a person that you may want to potentially reach out to. You may want to reach out to the band director at Norfolk State University or Howard University or Penn State University, as a matter of fact, because the college band director field is still very much a traditionalist field where it is, a field of academically, I'll just say it, be frank, white men. So if you have, music majors who are female, music majors who are like African-American, Latino, then I do know for a fact that the Northeast District houses, as far as colleges in that area, band directors who are minorities, who could speak to, what it's like trying to get a college band director position in this field, or what it's like being a band director of color or a female band director to that extent. Whereas you have many brothers who would fit that mold as undergrads, who that is something that they're pursuing as career goals and opportunities. So being able to have someone speak to them in that regards, I think would be a great opportunity for the Northeast District.
So moving forward, is this something that you would be willing to speak with our, I don't want to use the word, but constituents?
Sure. I would be more than happy to speak with my colleagues about this. I mean, because I think that, it's an initiative that's happening. It's happening across the country. We are having initiatives of people who are there's an initiative of composers who are women, people of color, who it's called colorful music, and it's being spearheaded by an Australian female composer, Jodie Blackshaw, down in Sydney, who's a wonderful person. I had the chance to meet her at Midwest. I programmed several of her work. She's a fantastic composer. But you have other composers who are at Peabody, like Omar Thomas, who went to James Madison University. I'm not sure if we have a chapter of KKPsi at James Madison.
We do.
But, okay. So James Madison is in your wheelhouse. They are in the Northeast District. So being able to reach out to that conductor and being able to reach out to that composer who went to James Madison and then went to Berkeley to work, and then is now working at Johns Hopkins at the Peabody Conservatory, is something that you may want to look at. And you may want to commission him for like a composition for the Northeast District. Who knows? So, it's just making the most out of your networks and being able to relate those relationships to your students, to our brothers.
And poor Jordan, I don't know how much notes he's been able to take, but I'm thankful for this and the opportunity to start this conversation, because there is so much that I want to do. And my problem is that I want to do everything now, and I can't.
Well, you have a lot of time. Congrats on being appointed governor, by the way. I don't think I ever got a chance to give you official congratulations, but congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So yeah, my advice would just be to just prioritize and figure out what you can do now and kind of what you can start on later.
Okay.
And figure out what's something that you can kind of do in your own wheelhouse versus something that you'll need to kind of look at, working with your fellow governors about.
Yeah, because one of the ideas, not to jump into Jordan's call, but he knows about this, but one of the things that we've talked about is doing, I hate the word, but a step workshop programming.
Okay.
And I don't want it to be a cultural us versus them thing. And that's, yeah, I see your face. But,
okay, yeah. First of all, the fact that you're even willing to have this conversation, is leaps and bounds where, districts were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I can tell you that from experience. And back when I was first initiated into Kappa Psi, stepping and strolling was a cultural, it was a cultural thing. HBCUs did that, and then non-HBCUs did not. So the fact that we are able to have this conversation, a decade later, proves a lot as far as how we've moved. And I think that although it kind of still is within districts. So yeah, I think that's just something that we just need to continue having conversation with, and eventually reach out to your fellow governors, because the Southeast District does that very well. That cross collaboration between chapters where stepping and strolling is involved.
Kalen,
the Southeast,
and Kalen has been my resource for everything.
Yeah, the Southeast District. It's just naturally that it would be them, because logistically they have the most population of HBCU chapters from any district in the country. So they're the hub of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so with that, they figured out the formula. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So just borrow, and talk to your fellow governors about how you can kind of help transition that over into the Northeast District. And you might have to change a couple things, because whereas the Southeast District is kind of half and half, where it's half HBCUs and half non-HBCUs. With the Northeast District, you kind of have a handful of HBCUs and then a lot of non-HBCUs. So, you may have to change some things. You have to maybe elevate some things here, lower some things there, move some things, shift some things around. But essentially the formula is going to be about the same. And that's just something that you can just reach out to your fellow governors and just kind of pick their brain about.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. As Jordan knows, we've been figuring out things. And honestly, I feel like I've been thrown literally to the wolves. And it's here's the deep end. Figure it out. Which is not a bad thing, but it's what's happened. And especially with everything going on, and looking especially with the music hour. And I think that's why I was really excited to hear other opinions, because the music hour, it's just everyone brings an instrument and you do a reading band, and it's boring and it's awful and you're laughing, but it's so it's finding different ways. One of the other things that we had on the docket was just to do a conducting workshop, because even that, like, it's different than a reading band and an auxiliary clinic and the same old stuff. I'm just going to use the word stuff. But I'm glad that, I don't know, we're trying to find different ways.
Yeah, I think all those points are pretty valid. I know I was invited to do the Northeast District Jazz Reading Band for, I think it was 2 years. I had a good time. That was a good time. It's always a fun time, like, but then again, it's jazz, and people like, it's different than like a reading band, so to speak.
Would you do it this year?
Huh?
Would you be able to do it this year?
Depending on the dates of your convention, I could possibly look into that. But yeah, and I think I did a conducting workshop whenever Northeast District was at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that might have been like, yeah, I think I did a conductor's workshop whenever Northeast District was at Virginia Tech. So, you know, the ideas you have, like, they've been done. It's just a matter of just like bringing them back.
Yep.
So, but yeah, if your dates don't coincide with anything I already have scheduled and you would like for me to come out there, I'd be more than happy to.
We would love to have you.
Where's NED this year?
Philly.
Philly?
Yep.
What? I thought it was like supposed to be in the New England area again.
So it's a hotel convention because no one put in a bid.
Gotcha.
So we ended up.
That's fine. That's fine. It's always a shuffle game. You know, for the past couple of years, I don't think we've ever had I think in the past four years, I don't think we've ever had a single year where all 6 districts have been able to all find or finalize a convention date by the end of their actual convention. And so we always have to find out about it later, which is fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. So, you know, it happens. But Philly?
Yeah, so Philly, it's the 20th to the 21st of March.
I think we might be on spring break, which means I would not have anything going on that weekend, but let me double check. And of course, that's something you would need to talk to your district council about. So
well, the one on here, so I think that Emma would be fine with it.
Okay. Well, just let me know. I'll double check dates, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. We would just, I mean, honestly, I think that so the new thing that the NED has done has been one-on-one calls, where we have, it's a council member and a governor, and just to check in. And the biggest thing in either they're having trouble with musicianship, or it's just general brotherhood stuff. So like service is easy, like some of the other stuff is easy. And I would love to just have something like, I don't know, I guess I just want to shake things up. And I'm sure Jordan's laughing at me right now, but I just want to do stuff. I want to help the students. That's it. And if that's, yep. And that's what they're asking for. So I feel like my job's done, you know?
Okay. Well, let me know how I can help.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Jordan, I don't know if you have any other questions. I'm sorry. I feel like I stole your show.
No, it's totally fine. I feel like it did contribute to the actual idea of this episode anyway, so that was fine. But no, I don't have any more questions. All I can say is thank you again for taking the time out to actually meet with me. Yes,
Please
please
yourself.
be safe.
Of course, of course. All right. Thank you guys so much.
All right, but thank you.